Okay, today I want to tie a black pennel. It's a fairly easy fly to tie and a very useful fly. It's good for sea trout, it's good for brown trout, it's good in lakes, in reservoirs, and I've taken a few sea trout on it. It's a very good fly for our part of the world, in fact everywhere. It's used a lot as a point fly on Scottish lochs, and I like it very much. Now, there are similar flies. A Williams favourite is very similar. It's just the tail is different, and I do use a larger Williams favourite, but I don't want to confuse you. They're very similar flies, and I don't think there's much between them. I tend to prefer the black pennel because it's got this tail of golden pheasant crest, which I will show you now. Okay, here we go. I'll, as usual, I'm going to wax the silk. Now the hook I'm using is a number 10, which is probably a little large for river trout, but I'm partly using a size 10 because it'll be easier for you to see on the demonstration. I've waxed the silk, and the silk I'm using is the Uni 880, like that, which is more or less my standard silk. Okay, 3 forward, 1, 2, 3, and 3 back. This is a wet fly. We don't need to worry about touch and turn so much because we don't need quite that foundation on the body that dry flies benefit from. Or if you're putting a silk, a tinsel, flat tinsel body, you don't want lumps. But with this fly, it's going to have a wool body, so it doesn't matter too much. Now the tail, which is probably the outstanding feature on this fly, is from the crest, the head of a golden pheasant. This is called a tippet. We use the crest for various other flies, and the crest is the yellow curved feather, which you may see me use later on, or you may have seen me use already. So we'll just pluck one of these off. Okay, I'll remove the rubbish. Now this is one feather that you do not pull down because the tips are already lined up. With 9 out of 10 feathers, you'll draw them down to tear off, but with this, we do not do that. So what I'm going to do is nip off a few with my scissors, like this. You see how I've done that? And I've got him in my hand. These I'm now going to tie on as the tail. The tail is about there. Probably I should have the tips lined up a little bit better, but don't think it matters much. We're not in a competition, are we? Okay, that's the tail. Now it's got a silver rib. You can use a flat tinsel or a braid. I'm going to use the flat tinsel, so I'm going to cut off about 2 inches, and I use my rough old scissors, my cheap scissors, for this. Incidentally, you will see when I'm using tinsels and silks, you'll see I've got a plastic collar on them to keep things tidy. Can you see that? This is a tip given to me by my friend Dave Lewis, a well-known fly tyer from Bridgend, who is very active in our club, and especially on the fly tying side of things. This really is just the clear tube that you buy from a camping shop or something to carry water away, and you cut off what you want and just put a slit down it. It comes in various sizes and fit various various silks and various reels. I think it's a very good tip, and I'm grateful to Dave for giving me that tip. This is one advantage of our class, our club, is everybody seems to sort of help each other. Okay, that's the rib. I'm now going to tie the body, and the body you've seen me use before is one strand of knitting wool. Just ordinary knitting wool. Tie that on, like that. I'll now take the silk up towards the eye to tidy things up a bit. About there. Okay, I'll wind the wool. Wool gives a nice tight body, as opposed to a dubbed or a hurl body. It's also got a bit of shine about it. It's very durable and it's very cheap. From a ball of wool you'll tie 1,000,000 flies, I think. Okie doke. We're going on nicely with this body. I hope my finger's not spoiling your view. And we get to about there, where I'll give 1 or 2 turns to secure it. 1, 2. And I'll remove that bit of wool. Okay, now the rib. The rib can go any way. I'm going under. I don't need to on this particular body. It's just a habit. Try to do even turns with the rib. Like that. Until we get to about there, when I will secure it. That's our rib on. You can see this makes quite an attractive sort of fly. To be honest with you, if you were fishing our river with a wet fly for trout or sea trout, and you had to use one fly, one wet fly throughout the whole season, this wouldn't be a bad option. I'm going to put a hen collar hackle wound around on. Comes from a hen cape which I've dyed black. I dyed this with Dylon dye which I buy from Dunelm and follow the instructions. This is a hen hackle I've plucked off. So I will have a look. It's a little bit long in places maybe. But with a wet fly it doesn't matter, because when it's working in the water and being sort of pulled through or taken with the current, it folds back and it makes a nice... I'll take a bit more off there, I think, because I don't want too much. Don't want too much. Okay. That's my hackle ready to go on. Goes on up the front. Now, because it's a wet fly, I just tie it on the side like this. If it was a dry fly, I would put it on with a figure of 8. I could use a hackle pliers to put this on, but I don't think I quite have enough room. I'll open it up a bit, and as I wind it, I sort of draw it back like this, as you can see, and I wind it towards the eye. I'm not sure who invented this fly, but I think it was somebody called something Pennel. And then a couple of little versions of it. Okay, I've drawn them back. I'm going to give 1 or 2 turns to secure it until I can nip off the little bit of waste there. Before I do that, I pull the whole thing back and secure it. So that's like doubling off the tip. Now that tip, really, see it there? That'll probably just pull off. Okie doke. That's basically the fly finished. apart from me tidying up and securing everything. Now with a wet fly, you can wind on to the hackle a little bit if you want to. Don't overdo it, because that's the sort of streamline effect of the wet fly. It is a good fly. It's very underrated because there's not much to it. It's quite simple. I find it quite easy to tie, and it's a good fly for trout, sea trout. Incidentally, also for grayling. So, you know, it's a good all-rounder. Right, now then, I'm going to do a whip finish, and got my needle ready. I've got my little pot ready to do the way I do a whip finish. I don't suggest too much that you do it this way. I just do it this way, wind it around. I recommend the whip finish tool and practice with it. In my early days, I was self-taught, and I did copy the whip finish out of Vineyard's fly tying book, and it took me a bit of time. This is sometimes why I sort of you may think I'm emphasizing the start and the finish of a fly too much, because I found those two aspects quite difficult when I first started. The start and the finish. So I may labor a little bit on the start by saying, you know, 3 winds forward and 3 winds back. And the finish, the whip finish. Now, really, that's our fly. I could have had my tips of the tail a little bit sort of more in line, but this is great. There's no problem with this fly as it is. Now, finally, always, but always, ensure the eye is clear. Either with a needle like that, even better, with an old hackle that you find lying about on your bench, through like a bottle brush, and that clears it. Now, that's a fly that's fairly easy to tie, good starter, good one for a newcomer to start with, and I do recommend it for our local rivers. In fact, you could go anywhere in the UK and fish with it, and probably other countries as well. Thank you for watching.